Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to the channel. It's Cynicalex, and I'm hitting you with a brand new tier list to rank the new uniforms for Drax, Gamora, and Adam Warlock, in addition to the, albeit very good at tier 2, kind of lackluster Echo as a brand new character, bringing us to a grand total of a whopping 249 characters as of the 7.8.5 update. We are just 1.5 updates away from the 7-year anniversary, and we were hit with the brand new content with Infinity Ultron. So that's why you will be seeing a bunch of extra characters bolded that we're going to talk about after the new additions, and a brand new icon. The new icon with the little robot head is for Infinity Ultron. And essentially, the Cole's notes here, the summary, is these are characters that I have identified personally through playtesting as being above average to excellent for Infinity Ultron for one reason or another. They're not all damage dealers. Some of them just have quirky abilities or basic attacks that are very, very good for countering the main mechanics of Infinity Ultron. So we're going to highlight that because maybe, you know, you're not working on the characters from the new update, you know, and so you're not really worried about their ranking on the tier list and their position, but maybe you're struggling with Infinity Ultron. So you can look now at the tier list, you can see different characters and you can see the little icons and be like, oh, I didn't know Shang-Chi was really good, or I didn't know, you know, Human Torch. Interesting. I'm going to go and find out why, or maybe I'm going to prioritize ranking up these characters, building up these characters, saving up for the uniforms, etc., because they're going to bring one thing or another to the table that is going to be very good for that content. I don't want to overstate the value of Infinity Ultron, so you're not going to see a big reshuffling in the entire tier list. I think some people were expecting that or thinking maybe there's going to be like an Infinity Ultron tier of characters. I don't want to go that far because although it's really fun content, it's really hard content, it's not more valuable for you to do. There is the artifacts that you can get, you know, at stage 10, 20, etc., and there is the icon, but other than that, the rewards are basically identical comparing Null, Mephisto, and Ultron. So because of that, once you get the artifact, maybe once, twice, once you get the icon, you really can decide for yourself whether you want to keep playing Ultron for the fun of it and the difficulty, you want to keep climbing the Conqueror rewards, or you want to go back to Null and Mephisto, in which case, you know, having this reshuffling wouldn't really make sense for players and doesn't really reflect the rewards, which are otherwise identical. So without further ado, let's get into it. We're going to start off first with Echo because unfortunately, Echo is a tier 2 character, and I would really love for her to be tier 3able or transcendable because I think she would be very competitive on this tier list, but I cannot, with good faith, put her anywhere higher than Shadowlanders. Now, she does have a good leadership, and her leadership is combined with the support ability of giving elemental damage. So she's sort of like Ancient One, which is very, very good. However, at a premium cost, right, whereas Ancient One is farmable for free, again, it just sort of feels weird and a little tiny bit scummy to highlight that. So yeah, technically she could be in the leadership support because she does basically the exact same thing that Ancient One does here, but yeah, she's a premium character, so we're going to put her as a Shadowlander. However, if you're a big AC player, you probably already heard that she's, you know, pretty decent for that, and for other tier 2 content, she is very good. I would love to have put her in free-to-play gods category, but like I said, premium tag. So yeah, that's where Echo ends up. Hopefully we'll see her somewhere more to the left of the tier list next time, but for now, that's where she's going to hang out. Now we get to Drax, Gamora Requiem, and Adam Warlock, the 3 characters that got reworked. And I gotta say, before we get into them, it felt really good. Regardless of how good these characters end up being, it felt really good to go over here to the sort of trash pile that is please rework and drag characters over. That was really nice, and especially to drag them into these top 3, top 4 categories of meta-defining, meta-gods, meta-ish, and borderline was just honestly chef's kiss. Now, before we go any further, slight PSA, these are just my opinions. You're more than welcome to build characters however you want. No, you know, no fuss there, no issues with that. But if you ask me, this is where I think Drax ranks. Just a bit worse than Sif and just a bit better than Apocalypse. His main value, in my opinion, for Drax is going to be PvP. However, the unfortunate reality of his leadership rears its ugly head when you realize that the other combat types, Gilgamesh, Wolverine, Hulk, Luke Cage, etc., they required debuff immunity. Like, they need some type of debuff immunity. Not a lot of combat types, or very few combat types, have debuff immunity on a skill that they can spam regularly to protect themselves. And so because of that, using Drax's leadership is really cool. When you look at the numbers, you're like, man, 65% increased HP? That's dope. And it is dope. But then you have to bring along Wasp as a secondary. And yeah, she gives 10% HP, so now you have 75% HP, but now you only bring one other character. So you either bring a support like Colossus, and now you rely on Drax to do all the damage, or you bring another damage dealer like Gilgamesh, Wolverine, or Hulk, or whatever, but then that's all you got, and you got to rely on those two to finish the job, because otherwise you're going to get dunked, because Wasp does nothing, and then your team gets really easily countered by blast types. So his leadership is a bit deceptive. It's a bit of a trap leadership. If it had debuff immunity, he could easily be in meta god, possibly meta defining, but unfortunately that's not the case. And then for PvE, he's basically going to bring nothing to the table. However, if you want to see how well Drax can perform with a max build, and I should probably give him the needs max build tag right here just to highlight the fact that you're not really going to get away with a budget build here for the boy Drax, check out Beast Mode Gaming's channel. He's got a great PvP video on Drax, but unfortunately I think with the current landscape, there are just better combat characters for PvP that can hold their own, like on their own, that they don't need to take up the leadership slot. They don't need to, you know, mess up with your team composition, and they can still get the job done. You know, Wolverine, Gilgamesh, Luke Cage, the other Luke Cage has to use leadership slot, but otherwise, these other combat types don't need to, even Shang-Chi, and then they allow you to run your regular leaderships like Sentry, Doctor Doom, etc., to get that extra value out of that. Up next, we got Gamora Requiem, and honestly, this uniform is a little bit underrated in how amazing it made this character. Not only does Gamora now have an insanely good leadership for speed types, which is so rare, but she's just overall a solid A-tier character that can do a whole host of different PvE content, is super proc friendly, which is amazing, and has burst damage, consistent damage, and survivability, basically the all-in-one PvE package. And she competes with characters who are either premium or much more difficult to build while maintaining none of those drawbacks. So it's a huge honor to have her alongside Captain America Falcon. She's basically a slightly worse version of him with a little bit less damage, a little bit less healing, and then not being able to take advantage of the same buffs because she's a villain. She doesn't have the leadership tag. But, you know, unlike Rogue, she doesn't need a CTP. She's very proc friendly. Unlike Luna and Silk, she's not premium. Unlike Corvus, she's not native tier 2. So she really shines in a category that is, you know, mostly dominated by characters who are very expensive or difficult to build for one reason or another. And like I said, with the guaranteed crit rate, but also with the fact that you can cancel for her proc, she makes use of so many different builds. You can build her with an Obelisk. You can build her with an Energy or a Mighty Destruction, and then you can also go ahead and build her with a Rage for ABX, where she shines right now, but she's also really good for World Boss Ultimate and World Boss Legend. The only real drawback I would say for her, besides, like I mentioned, the villain being a villain and not being able to take advantage of more buffs, is that her survivability is a little bit in question at times. Speed types in general tend to be a little squishy if you're not named Corvus or Rogue, and so because of that, you do need to play a little bit defensively at times. Her healing could be better, could be higher, but I think she's really good, and she got a really awesome rework, and I'm glad to see her used in so much content now. And then last but not least, we have Adam Warlock, and the summary of him, a brief summary, would be a better version of Emma Frost, in my opinion. They're probably quite neck and neck in PvE content. Maybe you could call it a wash, 50-50, but for PvP, he's definitely going to edge her out, mainly because he has the revive. That's like huge. You just can't overstate having to kill a character twice, but also his second skill is so disruptive. I really think it's the big reason why he's going to be in meta defining for a long time. His second skill has iframe ignore, and it has a counter, which is like a crazy combination, but on top of that, it interrupts. It interrupts almost any character's animation and knocks them out of it, which is huge for disrupting their combos, for getting Spider-Man out of the invisibility, and just doing all this stuff to, you know, increase his survivability and, you know, decrease the enemy's survivability. So for PvP, he's neck and neck, and he's really vying for the top spot there. And then for PvE, he does very well. A little bit hard to play with a proc, so not really as friendly, I'd say, as Emma Frost is, but still very good. And then tanky enough that you can make mistakes with him and he can heal it back up with that crazy 40% heal on the second skill. And he's got that amazing auto attack and the fourth skill where he summons the staffs to do continuous damage versus Infinity Ultron. And that's really the first step that I want to take in highlighting characters that I gave the Ultron tag to. So for Adam Warlock, He's not going to have the highest damage versus Ultron, but he's going to have that consistent damage and that damage that you can just tick, tick, tick while you're running around to help you stop Ultron from optimizing or to shut down the optimization once it has already begun if you're in the final phase of the fight. So that's sort of the first category of, or I guess the second category of characters. These are sort of like utility characters where they're not going to be there to, they may not be there to do all the damage, but they're going to help you during that optimization phase, and they basically counter the Infinity Ultron mechanics. Another really good example of countering the Infinity Ultron mechanics is Proxima, Midnight, and Crescent. Neither one of these characters, unless maybe you give Proxima like a brilliant energy or brilliant destruction, neither one of these characters is going to be your main damage dealer for Ultron, but they both have really good effects that help you counter the optimization. So for Proxima, she has a lot of lingering hits on her skills where they bounce around for a long time because she throws out these spears, and then obviously all the buffs and leadership and stuff she has. And then for Crescent, it's the fact that you have Io. It's really funny, and I kind of want to make a full dedicated video on this, but you run around as Crescent, and Io just pops up and punches Ultron. And that's all you need. And then he dies during the optimization phase or whatever, and then he pops back up and he punches Ultron again because he's got like a 2-second revive timer. So it actually works really well. And so you bring in Crescent's lead, and you can actually use her to counter the mechanics, and then go back to your main damage dealer, whether it's Wolverine or Cull Obsidian or Shang-Chi or whatever, and sort of win the fight that way. Another really good example of this is Icarus. You're not bringing him in to carry the fight. You're bringing in Athena or Makari or one of the other Eternals, but he is there to provide the lead and then to provide the iframe ignore on his fourth skill that you can switch to and pop at any time to stop the optimization, or if you have the artifact, you can pop any of his skills to stop the optimization. And iframe ignore is very important for stopping optimization, which basically is the difference between winning and losing. Similarly, although I do think he's a good, damage dealer as well, Thor, when we highlighted that in the video, has amazing animations and amazing skills for Infinity Ultron. Then you have characters who just deal a lot of damage versus Ultron. Makari, crazy damage, huge burst, very, very good damage versus Ultron. There's really not much to explain for that. She's just really good in all content for PvE, no surprise. Same thing here with Shang-Chi. He just hits super duper hard versus Ultron, and Ultron does move around a lot, but if you get him into a corner or you get him into a spot where you can pull off that, tier 3, 4, 5 combo, he just melts bars off like crazy, and you don't need to bring ignore dodge strikers because all the damage is concentrated after the tier 3 buff, and the tier 3 buff, or not the tier 3 buff, but the fourth skill gives him like 80% ignore dodge, so you can just rip through him at that point. Same thing goes for Human Torch. He sort of has a mixture of damage and utility because his fourth skill leaves behind a tornado at the end that will continue ticking for damage. So you have a really good, buff there to sort of knock down the optimization. Athena just has insane damage, especially if you can pair her with White Fox for the leadership buffs. Betsy, for some reason, just has really high damage. I don't really know how to explain it, but she does. Ultron just can't stop simping over her, I guess. And Captain America Falcon, this one is interesting because it highlights the value of very long, uninterrupted iframes. Essentially, what you could do is you start your Falcon combo, you start your 4-3-5 combo or 3-4-5 combo, and Ultron just stands there. He doesn't have iframe ignore unless he's in optimization or unless he's triggered an Infinity Stone skill already. So he'll just stand there and let you do your combo. And then if he does a little skill in between, and then you do 3-4-5-6, the sixth skill and his fifth skill both have super long iframes. And again, Ultron just stands there sort of watching. He has the null disadvantage where he doesn't attack you during your iframes, and so you can take advantage of that to clock in a ton of damage with Captain America Falcon, and he does a fantastic job on top of having other, there's other reasons why he's good, but that reason in particular, it needs to be highlighted. And then we have Supergiant. I was a little bit hesitant to highlight Supergiant because for the fight, although it's a small arena, Ultron does like to move, and he doesn't really like to stick to the sides. He actually likes to reset sometimes to the middle of the arena, which is really bad for Supergiant because, as you guys know, when you pop the sixth skill, she jumps way back, and then you can't combo that into 5-4-3. However, when you can combo it into 5-4-3, Supergiant does big damage. So it's kind of a high risk, high reward type of thing. But yeah, Ultron does move around a lot, and he can make you pull your hair out when you're playing Supergiant. but I gotta respect her damage because it's absolutely there, on top of the fact that she has iframe ignore on her third skill. So even if you're not doing damage with her, or you're in between phases or whatever, you can always pop 3 to hit him and stop the optimization and bring it down. So that is all I have for you guys today as far as the tier list goes, with the brand new content and sort of factoring that into the rankings for these characters. I didn't actually move any characters around to highlight their value for Ultron, but let me know in the comments down below if you think that I should. Thank you so much for watching. Smash the like button if you enjoyed it, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.